I've always said this, and will continue saying it until I'm blue in the face. In any election, you need those independent voters. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about my favorite non Canadian Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre. As everybody knows, he won his by election in Battle River Crowfoot easily with over 80% of the votes. No surprise there. Even with the next person below him, an independent, I think her name was Bonnie, an independent, got 10% of the vote. That was normal. That's nothing to really analyze about. He won. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. However, with the rest of Canada and the population of Canada, a poll came out that the numbers are not looking good for him, and he really needs to be concerned. So, in a Angus Reid Institute poll, 73% of Canadians view Pierre Poilievre as a strong critic of the government. Okay. Not really stating that they believe he should be leader of the PC party to criticize it, but a strong critic. They believe he's doing a very good job critiquing the current leader of the Canadian government, Mark Carney. However, 50% of them say they would be ashamed to call him prime minister. That's huge. That's a big number, 50%. Don't believe he's a good leader. Good at criticizing? I give him that. But a good leader? Nope. And 50% of Canada is on my side. So they go on to say that 52% of the survey respondents also say they believe him to be insincere. Now, they don't explain where they believe he's insincere. Is he insincere for his critiques, or is he insincere for what they believe he would do to help Canada? I think it's on the latter, because when he criticized what the Liberal government is doing, the current Liberal government, or even the past Liberal government, he never gives really any solutions or ideas, or the ideas and solutions he gives is nothing but like axe to tax or innovation over taxation. With the current EV mandate that he's rallying against. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So it's just slogans, no actual real ideas. Just like, I still can't believe he did it. So during the past election, his platform, the party's platform, and what they were going to do, their party were the last ones to release it, and they released it after early voting. So the NDP, the Liberals, they released it before the early voting. I can't remember what weekend it was, but during the week before the early voting on the weekend. And the Conservatives, Pierre's party, released it that Monday, Tuesday, after early polling, or early voting, sorry, not polling, early voting was over. So he has no ideas. And the excuse was, well, we didn't want to release it early in case the NDP or Liberals would copy it and use it for their platform. But then you're guilty for releasing yours last and potentially copying theirs. But anyways, I digress. So this one's very interesting. When it comes to Conservative voters, the number in the Angus Reid survey showed 68% still support Poilievre. Okay, 68% of Conservatives support Poilievre. I thought it'd be a little bit higher than that. But then they go on to say, but of the people who were considering voting Conservative in April and ended up deciding against it on election day, so that portion of how many people were going to vote Conservative and voted Liberals, 54% of those people want to see Poilievre lose the January leadership review and be replaced. Now, to me, that group of people are considered independents. I don't consider them conservatives. Just because they're willing to vote conservative and then they voted liberal, that means they'll vote for either party that they believe will do what's right for the country. If they were a group of people who were going to vote conservative, but then just didn't vote because they wouldn't vote for liberal and they didn't believe Pierre was worthy of being prime minister, then I could say that's a concern on the conservative side. This is still a concern, but this is a concern for his independent voters. So I've always said this, and I will continue saying it until I'm blue in the face. In any election, you need those independent voters. They are the ones who decide who wins an election on the municipality, on the provincial, and on the federal level, any type of election. You will always have your hardcore voters, even on the liberal, NDP, or conservative side. They will always vote for you no matter what. Unless you punch a baby in the face, they're going to vote for you. But the independents, the ones who will vote for any party that best represents their views at the time or is best for the community or the country, those are the ones you need to convince. And that's why I believe Pierre hasn't learned a damn thing since the election. His talking points, his arguments, his attacks are just placating to his hardcore followers. So I don't understand how he's going to become the next prime minister. And this is another thing too that I just can't believe is everybody, now that he won this by-election and everybody's now celebrating the next prime minister of Canada. Guys, he won a safe haven. If he had lost, that would be an absolute embarrassment. But he won easily because it's a safe haven for conservatives. You assume that's the next prime minister of Canada. That doesn't show us anything. His message, his rhetoric, where he's focusing on. And independents are watching this. His attack on an EV mandate. Talking about how it's, how did he put it? An attack on the Canadian identity. Because he's trying to state that he's going down a path where he's trying to separate. We're not even trying to separate. He's trying to go on the side of rural Canadians. This argument between rural lifestyle and city lifestyle, urban lifestyle, is a story old as time. Okay, where rural community members always feel that the city residents are always telling them what they can and can't do. And they feel attacked on their community. So he's feeding in on that. And he's basically telling everybody in the rural communities that EVs are attacking your lifestyle. Because you can't, well, eventually you will not be able to buy a gasoline truck. Because farms and rural communities are all about trucks. Yes, I understand there's a lot of trucks in the communities, but that's not what makes your community or rural lifestyle. What I think about, or what I picture when I think about rural communities, I think about the community itself and how people extend each other a hand when they need each other, when they need help. When a neighbor needs a help, they band together and give them a hand. When a community member's down on their luck, they'll help them out. Community events where they get together. Just that respect of each other is what I picture when I think about rural communities. Of course, farmers markets, county fairs, the typical things you see on television. A truck is not your identity. It's a vehicle, it's a tool. An EV is also a tool. It just has a different propulsion. Instead of gasoline, it uses electricity. It can still tow, it can still drive, it can still haul, it can get from point A to point B. I don't care about what everybody's saying in terms of infrastructure. You got an electrical outlets in your house, you have infrastructure. You put a charging station. These vehicles have a range of over 500 kilometers. You're telling me your home, your farm is more than 500 kilometers from town, from your neighbor, from the feedlot, from a supplier, for whatever? That doesn't exist. You don't need gas stations or charging stations unless you're going more than 500 kilometers. Are you doing more than 500 kilometers a day? And I mean like more than 500 kilometers where you can't go. Say you're going from your home to town. Have your town have charging stations. So when you get to town, you plug in while you do your work so that when you leave town, you've topped up. And then when you get home, you plug in. So you're charged the next morning and you can go another over 500 kilometers. Yes, I understand in the wintertime, even in the rural areas up north, it gets very cold. But even with the newer vehicles that they have today, they've got technology where it conditions the battery so you don't lose as many kilometers. You're still doing over 400, the ability to do over 400 kilometers in a day with an electric vehicle. They're not talking about farm equipment in terms of tractors, combines to be electric. These are just EVs. And even then, it's over a 10-year period where they do 10% of sales for a manufacturer has to be EVs. Then in 2030 is 60%. And then in 2035, it's 100% of sales. That's 10 years. Think about it, 10 years. A lot of things happen in 10 years. Think about where we were 10 years ago in terms of technology, policies, whatever. I want to even show you a picture of a city in, I believe in the States, I think it's New York City, where in the year 1900, it was just all horses. And then about 13 years later, it's all vehicles, all cars. Things change in 10 years, especially with a new technology. And then they had the same grievances that you do with EVs. No infrastructure. No gas stations back then. Infrastructure also for fixing the vehicle, like people are complaining about who's going to fix the EVs. Who's going to fix the gasoline vehicles when I got a horse where there's vets everywhere? Roads. How am I going to go from one town to another when there's no highways and it's all dirt roads? These cars can't go over dirt roads. They get flat tires every 2 kilometers. Where a horse, I can go wherever I want. And then with the fuel, a horse, it's just feed. I can get feed wherever I want. And what maintenance do I need to do on a horse as opposed to a car? Because those cars, back in the early 1900s, required a lot of maintenance. So all of these arguments have been said before for other technologies, yet there was change. Once people saw the benefits of a vehicle, they changed. Same thing when people start seeing actually driving an EV, they're going to change. Anyways, I digress. So in that same group of the 54% who don't want Poilievre to be the leader of the PC party, 59% said Poilievre sounded too much like U.S. President Donald Trump. And 59% said the campaign was too negative. And 70% said they believe the party didn't articulate a clear plan for the country. This is what I said. This is what I was telling the conservatives who still believed in Pierre Poilievre, that he didn't have a clear, concise plan. Wasn't telling the rest of Canada, especially the independents, what he was going to do. He's telling them all that was technically wrong, but not how he was going to fix it. And he sounded too much like Trump. Canada sees what Trump was doing, and they didn't want that. That's why they voted against him. It shows in this numbers why they voted against him. So now, today, well, not today, but in this current poll, the Liberals are 12 points ahead of the Conservatives at 44% and 32%, respectively, for the Conservatives. That number sounds familiar. It's like somebody said this before this poll came out. If you held the election today, you will never get close to 42%. You'll be lucky if you break 30. Well, that's right. That was me. So I believe I'm going to call this now, just like I did with the 30%. He wouldn't get 30% of the votes if they had an election now. That I don't think he's going to get the leadership in January. He's still arguing things that really Canadians don't care about, like the EV mandates. They might believe that it's going to be difficult, but that it's not impossible. But what concerns of the fellow Canadians is just economy, housing. He still talks about how it's the federal government's fault, yet has no idea or no plan on how to solve it. And I've said this multiple times over and over again. The federal government has nothing to do with housing. It's provincial and municipality. Again, the independents are seeing this and are seeing that he actually has no plan. And it's just blaming everybody else. So he's not going to get the leadership. He's not going to maintain it. And I don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to go scorched earth and take his hardcore followers, because there's a lot of you out there, and go like an offshoot separate party, like a PPC. I don't think he'll do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I don't. I think he'll just take the loss, go down in history as the worst PC leader, federal leader, losing a 25-point lead 3 months before an election, and his own riding he had for 20 years by more than 3,000 votes. And he deserves that footnote because he hasn't learned his lesson. He hasn't changed. He's gotten a second chance, and he's doing nothing with it but going down the same roads. Well, listen, let me know in your comments if you also believe what I think of Pierre being eliminated as the PC leadership in January of 2026, this coming January. Or if you think he's going to continue and how he's going to save Canada. I mean, what plan he has. I'm not talking about a talking point. I'm not talking about a slogan. I mean an actual plan. Well, that's it for me. We'll talk later. Take care.